Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. And I am joined here, as always, by the man who won't win Super Bowl MVP, but is the MVP in all of our hearts, Kyle. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm good. That was a very nice thing to say.
Yes.
I appreciate it. I might win Super Bowl MVP one day.
Okay, yeah, it's still time.
Still
Can't
got
believe
plenty
you
of
went,
good years left.
yeah, can't believe you went undrafted last year. Amazing.
Yeah. I'm working on it though. As you can see, I've really started to slim down, and
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
preparing to make my run.
Yeah. So to talk about what we're going to do today, we're going to have two draft style picks. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to draft the top 20 players we think are most likely to win MVP, and also top 20 players we think will be. I labeled it LVP. I see someone's in the chats already confused. What's an LVP? Least valuable player. That's what we're going with. And really, the definition we've used is player who will be most criticized. Didn't know exactly how to put that in the title, so that's what it is. But yeah, so that's what we're going to do for this show. And also, Kyle, you being so far down in the points right now, remember, lower score wins. We have 2.5 points at stake for the most valuable player draft. So this would be big for you.
I guess so. Make up that 2.5 points of the 25-point deficit.
Yes.
So,
hey, but Super Bowl is, 10 points plus the point differential. You'd have a chance.
Yeah. So gotta hope for the best. We'll see how this goes.
Yes. All right. We'll see how it goes. Here's what I was thinking, though. So we'll start off with the MVP draft, and then we'll go to the LVP draft. And I was thinking the way we could do this, and let me know if this works for you. We'll have one of us pick first overall, then the other one goes second and third, and then we go just back and forth the rest of the way. So it'll snake once, just because I feel like the first overall pick, getting to pick the first quarterback, is a significant advantage.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Let's go ahead and do it.
All right. I forgot to set up the banner. Here we go. MVP draft. All right. It should be Super Bowl MVP draft. I'll get that in a second. Since you're trailing, I'll let you decide. Do you want to pick first or do you want to pick second in this draft?
I guess I'll go first. Why not?
Okay. Going first, which means you will then be essentially picking second for the rest of the draft. But this is the most important one. First overall, who do you got?
Yeah, this one feels easy. It's going to be one of the two quarterbacks. It's Patrick Mahomes for me. I'm prefacing this with, I don't have a pick yet for the Super Bowl. I am waiting till our preview show Wednesday to make my official pick. I don't have a pick for the game yet. I'm picking Patrick Mahomes because if the Chiefs win, it's a virtual lock that he's going to be Super Bowl MVP in my book. I think there's other players on the Buccaneers who are more likely to win it than other players on the Chiefs who are more likely to win it. So I'm going with Patrick Mahomes because you got to take the quarterback first. It's always seemingly the quarterback, and Mahomes makes the most sense to me. Patrick Mahomes, number one.
Yeah, that seems like the clear pick there, number one. That's who I would have selected. That I had him number one on my board. It just feels like if the Chiefs win, someone else. It's hard to imagine a scenario where the Chiefs win and Mahomes doesn't get the MVP.
Well, we'll probably talk about it. Yeah, exactly. We'll talk about it a little later, I'm sure, with some of these other guys getting picked. But there was what's the guy's name that played last year? The other Williams, not Darrell Williams. Was it Damian Williams?
Damian Williams.
Damian Williams. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
Damian Williams.
No, I get him confused
had
all the time.
A pretty good argument to win Super Bowl MVP last year. And they gave it to Mahomes anyway because he was obviously fantastic in that fourth quarter. But there was a argument for that, and I don't think he was even under consideration. So yeah, I'm going with Mahomes.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like not only can someone it's not just enough for someone to be better than Mahomes. They're gonna have to be significantly better. Also, I see some people in the chat. I see Bill Murray. Very cool that Bill Murray is a fan of the On the Sideline podcast. Cool to see. He said that looks like a Chiefs hat. No, I've worn this hat before, and people have said the same thing. A Buccaneers hat. It's an old school creamsicle Buccaneers hat. Get it together.
Wow, that was aggressive.
Sorry, I get very angry over minor things sometimes.
So, all right, who do you got number 2 and 3?
Okay, number 2 and 3. Well, number 2 is the obvious one. If you're going Mahomes, I go Brady. I think Brady, there's definitely a clear vision you can see for Brady winning the Super Bowl MVP. He's won it a numbers times when you could argue other people should have won it. And again, he's going to have to It's the same thing where quarterbacks typically win it. And especially if there's no one who has a great stat line and the Bucs win, Brady's going to win it, even if he doesn't have a great stat line.
Yeah, no, quarterback makes perfect sense, and Brady obviously has 4 of those in his arsenal to back him up. Or actually, no, sorry, he doesn't have 4. He has 3. Sorry. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with Brady. I would go with Brady too. He was number 2 on my board. It makes the most sense for him because we don't spend too much time on these two, but obviously, you're going to favor the quarterback in every postseason award.
Yeah, exactly. All right. You say you don't want to spend much time on the quarterback, so we'll move on then. Number 3, I'm going did I take off the banner? What am I doing here? Number 3, I'm gonna go Travis Kelce here. And here's my logic for Kelce. I feel like there's a real chance that you coughed. I shouldn't say bless you. Right.
It's all good.
Okay, I'll say bless you anyways. Travis Kelce here at number 3. I just feel like there's a real chance that Kelce ends up with like 110 yards and a couple touchdowns. And he, if Tampa Bay really tries to take away the speed guys, I think Kelce could have a good statistical day and find a way to win it.
I mean, yeah, he's done it all year. He was basically leading the league in receiving yards up until the last week of the season where they benched him for rest. And, he had a pretty good game against Tampa Bay as well the last time they played. 8 catches on 8 targets for 82 yards, which is very good. And he's continued to show time and time again. We saw it in that Buffalo game, how dominant he can be. And it'll be interesting to see how Tampa Bay approaches this game. But as we talked about last week, he's just the ultimate zone buster. If you're going to sit in zone against this team, he's going to find ways to get open. He's the ultimate zone player, I think, in the NFL right now. And it'll be interesting to see how they approach that because he's so dominant in that sort of setup.
Yeah, I agree. And I especially think about the matchups everyone's sort of talking about. Tampa Bay should run 2 safeties deep. Well, if you do that, then you're going to want to throw underneath, and Kelce's the guy to do that too. So that's why I have him at 3.
Yeah, I can't complain with that because I do think it makes a lot of sense. With you taking him 3, though, I feel pretty good because the guy I had 3rd was the guy who just did it to Tampa Bay a couple months ago. Tyreek Hill went absolutely nuts in that game. He had 13 catches, 269 yards, and 3 touchdowns in the game against Tampa Bay as the Chiefs won 27-24. So we've seen him be able to do it against Tampa Bay, and it wouldn't be shocking if he does it again because he's so dominant and he's so darn good. I'm going to go ahead and take Tyreek Hill number 4.
I think that's a bad pick. And here's why I think I had the strategy in this draft of I was going to let you pick Hill because I just don't see any way Tampa Bay lets them, is going to play one-on-one coverage the whole game with Hill like they did in the first half the first time. I feel like there's a very small percentage chance that Tyreek Hill does go off like that. And listen, he could win MVP without getting 200 yards. But I also feel like if Hill's getting a lot of yards, there's probably just going to be a lot of passing yards, which means that Mahomes would win it. So I kind of played it that way too. It feels like, what's the pathway to MVP? That's kind of how I viewed a lot of this. And I don't think Tyreek Hill has a huge pathway because I feel like Tampa Bay is going to make a key effort of their defensive game plan to double him, to get him out of the way and worry about the other guys.
I mean, I think that's fair. I can understand it fully because, listen, when these two teams played, it was basically over because Tyreek Hill ended the game before it started. He torched them for over 200 yards in the first half.
3-point game.
I mean, they came back, but he had over 200 yards in the first half. I mean, they had no solution, so maybe they're going to have to reassess how they looked at that first game and probably counter to it. But, if I'm just taking odds here, I'm taking the guy who's already proven that he can beat this defense and a guy who has been under 50 yards twice this entire season receiving. I think he could still have a big day. Even if they put a lot of attention on him, he still finds ways to make big catches and could have a big game in this one.
I wouldn't necessarily say they never found an answer for him. I mean, and it's it's not like Hill had 800 yards in that game.
He almost set the record.
But I mean, he had a ridiculous amount in the first quarter, and then they definitely did have an answer. And I mean, the Chiefs scored once in the second half?
I think so, but yeah, I mean, now was part of that the Bucs adjusting, or was part of it the Chiefs coasting?
It was the Bucs. I mean, it was definitely part of it, the Bucs adjusting.
I mean, I'll give them credit for the second half performance, but I just think that Tyreek Hill still has the opportunity to go nuts, even if a team's putting a lot of attention on him.
Yeah, I guess so. I think it's a reach. That's my final thought on it.
Well, we'll see. I like my odds with the fourth pick here.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I'm gonna go number 5 here, and this one again, it's tough because I'm trying to view this. Who do I think could win the Super Bowl MVP? Not necessarily who do I think is going to be the most like the best player. And I feel like Leonard Fournette has some real potential here because I think that we could see Kansas City. They play their two safeties deep, and I think that the fact that Leonard Fournette already has the moniker of Playoff Lenny, that could sort of help him, and that people are sort of expecting him to do well. I think there's a real chance he could end up getting like 15, 20 carries in this game. And if no one else, again, it's a small chance. We're now on pick 5. If it's like most likely going to be Mahomes or Brady, but I just feel like there's a better chance that someone on the Bucs ends up with a Super Bowl MVP if it's not a quarterback. And I think that Leonard Fournette, like again, just thinking schematically, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, and I was on OddsShark today looking at it. Leonard Fournette has the 5th highest MVP odds right now for Super Bowl MVP. You can also argue that he's been the most consistent player this season for this postseason. I mean, for
okay, I was about to say, what are we talking about?
The most consistent player this postseason for Tampa Bay on the offensive side of the ball. So I completely understand the argument for this one. I get it. I think there's just a lot working against him. He's not the traditional star, and usually these go to some of the star-centered players. So I think that might work against Fournette, plus not to mention that both of these teams aren't afraid to throw the ball when the going gets tough, and how much is he going to be involved at that point? So I get it, but I also have questions about it, especially at the 5th highest odds.
Yeah, no, it's concerning, especially with we don't even know how many snaps he's going to get with Ronald Jones. There's a lot of ways this could go poorly, but I honestly think that like the fact that he has the moniker of Playoff Lenny is putting him up like 5 or 10 or maybe about 5 spots in this draft, just that alone.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. That probably is true. He had the hat the other day too at the Playoff Lenny. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I guess he was given a hat with the Playoff Lenny moniker. It's funny.
Okay, that's good. Hey, no branding. This might be you don't know where you're going to be next. Running backs come and go quickly. Get that now while you can.
Hey, I'm with you.
All right.
So I guess I should move on with mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this one you're gonna criticize this one. This is a reach for me.
Okay, good.
But I'm having fun with this.
Sure.
So we've already got through the clear-cut favorites. I feel like that's the very obvious picks. In his career, in 7 games against the Kansas City Chiefs, 525 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. This guy does very well against Kansas City for his entire career and has beaten them multiple times in big games. Could we have one more great game out of Rob Gronkowski?
Yeah,
what's that?
Go ahead, finish.
I was just saying, can we have one more monster game out of Rob Gronkowski where he beats up this Chiefs defense one more time? And if Brady's having trouble, maybe he goes to the target he relies on the most and trusts the most, and that's Gronk. Could Gronk have a big game in this one and steal Super Bowl MVP?
I think that's a bit of a reach, but I don't hate it. I do actually. I think I think there is definite potential here for this to happen, and I especially think that everything I said about how the Bucs will defensively game plan about the Chiefs, you could argue it could be very similar with Kansas City, and the Chiefs like to play that cover 2 man type play, and you watch that first game, Gronkowski, he had a big game in that one, and I'm not sure if there's a even again, people love Tyrann Mathieu, which I get. I love him as well. He wasn't able to cover Gronk one-on-one. Sorensen certainly wasn't. And I think that's a good pick. Again, schematically, it makes sense. And also, he's someone where if he has that name recognition, which I do think matters.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that comes with Gronk in this postseason, too, is that against the Chiefs, like you said, I don't think there's a great matchup to go up against him one-on-one. And then the other part of this is, he has blocked a ton this postseason. And I think it's been an important part of his game, as Luke Brown did say here. He has blocked a ton this postseason. But part of the reason why he's blocked a ton this postseason is because he's gone up against the Washington football team with Chase Young and all those guys on that defensive line, the New Orleans Saints with their defensive line, and the Green Bay Packers, who have some pretty darn good pass rushers as well. Going up against those 3 defensive lines and the way they can rush the passer, it's important to keep Gronk in there to get some blocks and make some plays in the to protect Brady. Frank Clark's really good, but this isn't the same sort of pass rush of that caliber. So is this an opportunity for him to maybe catch them by surprise and run some routes and have a big game? He had a big game against Kansas City in the game too in week what week was that, by the way?
12.
In week 12, he had a big game against Kansas City there as well.
Yeah, well, what about this then? I'll play devil's advocate. Could you see that, one of the ways Kansas City was able to have success was with their blitzes, and Tampa Bay really struggled to pick up the blitz. I think that they'll probably try to use Leonard Fournette more in that role, which makes my pick not seem as good now that I think about it. But maybe Gronkowski could also sort of be in that blitz protection to start things, and then, just go out to the flat and try to be a check down guy.
Yeah, there's potential. There's also potential that he slips out a couple times and has a couple big games too. So I feel pretty good about this pick, especially, like we said, the top two are probably going to be the Super Bowl MVPs. If I'm looking for a guy who could surprise people with the big game, I'm going Gronk here.
Yeah, no, I get the logic behind it for sure. I think I had him like 13 on my board, but so like I said, bit of a reach, but he was, well up on my board too. I was hoping I'd get him before you. Didn't work out that way. Now it's time for my turn. I'm going number 7 pick. I'm going to go Tyrann Mathieu here. He's just a big play guy, and to win MVP as a defensive player, you have to make splash plays. He can absolutely do that. And I could also see a scenario where if Tampa Bay goes down early, they start pushing the ball. Maybe he gets an interception. So maybe he's ended up with a couple picks on the day. I think that if, first defensive player to go off the board here, I feel good about that. He's a big playmaker. This makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. He's almost, that's pretty much what he does is he reads the game really well. He sees it really well, and he capitalizes and creates turnovers. That's something that he does at a really high level, and that's what you need to do in order to be a defensive Super Bowl MVP. So I completely understand it. I think Mathieu could have a big game in this one, and we saw Brady and Tampa haven't been afraid to take shots downfield all year. That's where Tyrann Mathieu lives. Is he going to be able to take advantage of those plays?
Yeah. Luke Brown disagrees. He says, I don't see a defensive player winning this unless it's a pick six or a clutch Malcolm Butler type play. Well, even Malcolm Butler didn't end up winning it that year. But, it does seem like it's going to be a high scoring game. I actually think this could be a bit of a lower scoring game than people realize, though. But that's probably better for our Super Bowl preview. All right, let's have you go now. Number 8.
All right. Oh, this is the tough one for me. I have a couple guys here that I have in the same spot. I actually want to go his counter, a guy who I've really enjoyed watching this year, and a guy who I kind of viewed as this season, a mini Tyrann Mathieu, coming into the NFL draft because I found a lot of their skill sets and what they do on the defensive side of the ball so similar. If Patrick Mahomes is taking some shots downfield, he's got to respect Antoine Winfield. I know he's not as well-known as Tyrann Mathieu, but he's almost as talented, and he can capitalize with some big turnovers in this one. I'm going Antoine Winfield Jr., maybe get a couple big plays here for the defense.
This is a bit of I love Winfield. He was not on my board. I think that, it's going to be a bit difficult, I think, given that, Tampa Bay will play their cover too. So I could see the logic behind it. It's not a horrible pick, though. He probably should have been on my board because while I didn't have it here, I think it's still a bit of a reach, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, and look, we saw it with that Saints game. He made the biggest play of the game. This guy knows how to make big plays. He is literally like another version of Tyrann Mathieu who does the same thing, who reads the game so well and just capitalizes on instincts to make big plays. He made the biggest play of that Saints game that got them down the field for a touchdown. I'm going with Winfield to be able to have an opportunity. He's going to at least have opportunities to make huge plays for his team. So I think that's all that matters, and he's going to be able to capitalize if he can.
Yeah, and one of the things about Mahomes is he will take those chances. I think that the stat people keep talking about is like leading the league in like dropped interceptions or whatever, or like
interceptable passes, something stupid like that. But
yeah. But hey, maybe get those interceptions. So I'll counter that pick a little bit. I think I have a different Tampa Bay defensive player who I think does a better job of getting those splash plays, getting on the box score in a way that a safety it just struggles more to do. How about Devon White? I think Devon White equally likely to get some of these turnovers, and also he could get a sack or two. And if he ends up with 2 sacks and an interception, and it ends up being a low-scoring game, he could end up being the guy.
Yeah. I mean, he's another guy who's just incredibly athletic. He's a great sideline to sideline player, and I think he's going to be incredibly important in this game. He's going to be important against guys like Kelsey coming across the middle, these little drag routes that they kind of run with some of their guys and some of their speed guys going to the edge. And I think he's just going to be incredibly important in this game. And if he's able to rise up to the challenge and play with that sort of level, then yeah, I mean, I honestly think that that's a great pick. I think he can have a big game in this one.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the compliment on the great pick.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so I think we've disrespected them a little too much now. We probably got to go wide receiver here because we've had one. We've had Gronkowski for pass catchers. I guess you can include Lenny in there. But
I mean, we've had Kelsey and Gronkowski both are tight ends, and then obviously Hill went.
Yeah, so I mean, so the obvious one here for me, if I'm picking one receiver for Tampa to have the biggest game, it's not necessarily that. I mean, he's the best receiver, so I'm going with Mike Evans. And the roadmap for Evans to win Super Bowl MVP is we've seen it twice with Patriots wide receivers. He just has to set the receptions record for a Super Bowl, and he's probably got it in the bag. That's what Deion Branch did in 2004, and then that's what Julian Edelman followed up with in 2020 or 2018. So yeah, I mean, if Evans can have a huge game like that, then he's probably a shoo-in for winning Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, no, this is a good pick as well. He was the next highest receiver on my, or I think it was second. I think I have another receiver higher, but he was number 9 on my board. He goes 10 here. So we're halfway through this part of the draft. But again, you had some players that I had lower, which is why it's been that way. And yeah, you can, again, if we're talking about pathways to win an MVP, you can see a scenario where Brady has like 280 yards and Mike Evans has like 140 of them. That was what I feel like all the time. There was like these Jameis Winston stat lines where Winston had 310 yards and Evans had over 200. Like it does happen every now and then. And if it is going to happen with a receiver, you can see it with Evans. And as you said, Brady's had it happen twice where a receiver won MVP.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just think if I'm picking one receiver, I'm going with the guy who I know is the most capable of being a big game player because he's the best receiver on this team. So he could have a monster game. He's going to have some tough competition against those Chiefs corners, but he's also talented enough to win it out because it's Mike Evans.
Yeah, and another thing factoring in with Evans is he's someone who can make sort of these spectacular plays, and maybe you could see a sort of big play late in the game that sort of changes people. Says, oh, well, he should win MVP because he caught that touchdown pass or something.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, if I'm picking a receiver, I think Evans is the guy for Tampa.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, I'll go with my next pick now. Number 11, in the back half of this draft, I went with Devon White. Might as well go with his, the guy who plays the same position as him. I'll go Levante David here. I think that pretty much everything you can say about White, you can say about David. David hasn't necessarily had the stats that White has had this season, but he's certainly someone who, it seemed like a few years back, there was like this one stretch where he was getting a forced fumble every game. I could see him ending up with a couple turnovers and winning a defensive MVP in the Super Bowl the same way Devon White could.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I actually didn't have him on my board because I just feel like Devon White's the flashier player at that linebacker spot, so he takes a lot of attention. But I mean, Levante David. He's a fantastic player, so I can't criticize the pick either.
Yeah. Also, I'm checking out the chat. People very upset that Shaq Barrett has fallen this far. People are ready for him to go like pick 2.
I mean, if you want me to take care of that, I can. We could talk about it here because I'll. Unless you had anything else on Levante David you wanted to say.
No, I mean, it would be the most Levante David thing ever if he was the clear MVP and then they gave it like Tom Brady or something. Just once again, not getting his due.
Yeah, Brady has like 185 yards in this one and wins Super Bowl MVP in like a 17-14 game that David dominates.
Right, he has like 2 pick sixes. Like doesn't matter.
Yeah, so that's funny. Yeah, so everyone can calm down in the chat now.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Shaq Barrett because, I mean, it's the obvious thing that people are looking at. Shaq Barrett's going up against Mike Remmers and Andrew Wiley. So the obvious thing we've talked about it is you sit in that 2 deep zone and you get to Mahomes before he can set and throw. Well, Shaq Barrett looked terrific against the Packers, so it makes a lot of sense. He looks better when Vita Vea is on the field. I don't know if I said it right. He looks better
I
when
know its first name is Vita. The last
okay,
name,
so
everyone has a different opinion.
Vita Vea. He looks better
Mhm.
with Vita Vea is on the field. So that obviously helps.
I'm sorry,
So
this comment just cracked me
so
up.
yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
mean, I get the logic to Shaq Barrett. I think for a defensive end to get it, I mean, unless he gets a turnover, he's going to need to have like 4 or 5 sacks in this one. So we'll see. But I think that's the guy I'd pick for a defensive lineman.
Yeah, I mean, it logically makes sense. There definitely is the factor. The only real reason why I'm a little bit lower on that is just because I feel like Mahomes is hard to sack. Like he's just a tough guy to
Yes.
bring down, and so like obviously there is a pathway for him winning it. It just seems a bit tough. All right, I'll go my pick now. Number 13. I'm gonna go. We had a lot of Buccaneers in a row. I'm counting right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 5 straight Tampa Bay players. I'm gonna mix that up. I'm gonna go a receiver for the Chiefs. Hill is already off the board. Kelsey's already off the board. How about Sammy Watkins here? Now, Sammy Watkins, he obviously had a big day in the Super Bowl last year. I also think on top of this is that I definitely think Tampa Bay is gonna I think there were plays in the second half of the time they played in Week 12 where they were doubling both Kelsey and Hill and sort of saying let the other guys beat them. I could see Watkins end up if Tampa Bay's game plan works, you could end up with Watkins kind of having an 100+ yard day and maybe a low scoring game, and he could end up winning it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he's likely to play, which is a good thing, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense because he is the second best receiver on this team. And if so much attention is going to Hill and Kelsey, he's going to have a lot of opportunities to get open. So I think it is. I think it makes a lot of sense to pick him at this spot, and maybe they all take attention away from Watkins, and he has a big day.
Yeah, I think good value here too at 13.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. I'm going with another Kansas City receiver, and a lot of this is because, well, I think if someone's going to win Super Bowl MVP, and I love the value I have here, if someone's going to win Super Bowl MVP that's not a quarterback, he's got to be able to score when Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes aren't on the field. So who's that going to be? It's the guy who had the highest kick return yard average that had 10 returns or more, and that's Byron Pringle. Can Byron Pringle have a big game in this one? Maybe get a kick return or 2, have a huge game. It's completely outlandish and unlikely, but if I have to pick a guy with some value here, I'm going with Byron Pringle to have a huge game in this one and maybe get a kick return.
Yeah, that's a really good point about, and I especially feel like Tampa Bay won the special teams battle against Green Bay, but as a whole, it hasn't necessarily been perfect. So I do think that going that my one question though is I'm trying to make sure I remember this right. So is Hardman the punt returner and then Pringle is the kick returner?
I believe so, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Hardman was the one who fumbled, but yeah, I believe the primary kick returner is Pringle. So
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, and there was that in Brett Favre's Super Bowl win over the Patriots. There was the kick returner won the MVP, right?
yes. Yeah.
So there is precedent. Not a lot, but some.
Yeah, it's completely unlikely. But you know what's also completely unlikely is Cameron Brate winning Super Bowl MVP. So I might as well pick a guy who could have an explosive play.
Well, there we go with my great lead into my next pick. I have Cameron Brate here. And listen, everything you said about Brate, you can pretty much say about Gronkowski, with the exception of, he doesn't have the name brand. So that does factor in. But I think that what Brate, the advantage of Brate here winning MVP is he isn't the blocker that Gronkowski is. So if you have 2 tight ends, he's going to be the guy running routes. He's going to be the guy trying to get open more so. And again, with that schematic, it makes tight ends had a good day against Kansas City last time. That's maybe is the way for Tampa Bay to beat them. I could see Brate ending up being sort of a surprise hero. I can't remember. He at least was the Bucs' leading receiver heading into Green Bay. I think Evans might have passed him, or someone might have passed him. But still, I could see it happening.
I mean, yeah, someone's got to catch the passes. So if it's Brate this game, Brady's going to take the guy who's open. He doesn't care about who gets touches and who gets targets. He's going to take the guy who's open. If Brate's open this game and he's open all game, I could see Brate having a big game in that one. But But yeah, I mean, I think the name brand is going to hurt him a lot in that.
Yeah, it's possible. I'm trying to think what would be like maybe like a Malcolm Smith, like that could be like a comparison of someone who's like not like an awful player, but it's not anyone who anyone thought would win MVP heading in.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably a good example. I'm trying
Mhm.
to think of who else would be.
It's weird though, because like Malcolm Smith is like. By the way, I love how every time this is totally unrelated, but whatever. This podcast is it's we started off the rails for this one, so who cares? I love how every time Malcolm Smith like does anything in a game, it's always like Super Bowl MVP Malcolm Smith.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
what else he had to say.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
That's his Ryan
his
Fitzpatrick
claim to
to
fame.
Harvard.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, and then yeah, it's just gonna take a lot for somebody else to win a trophy, you know? Like Tracy Porter had it like his best game of his life in the Super Bowl for the Saints. And he didn't sniff the Super Bowl MVP. So, especially for a name of obscurity, it's gonna take a lot to, I think, win the award.
Yeah, I agree. All right, 16. So we're getting down to it. Running out of picks left. Who do you got?
All right. I gotta go back to my pick page here. All right, so this is the wild card. I'll go with Antonio Brown. I
Okay.
feel like I just got to take him at this point. Antonio Brown is obviously it was his first game. Um, it was his first game, I believe, with the Bucks with the game against the Chiefs, and then he had some good games at the end of the year. He started coming around, and then obviously got hurt and missed the last game. But if Brown's still an all-time great wide receiver, so I think I do think that Antonio Brown could have a good game.
Yeah, no, I think this is a good pick and it's good value here also. And you could totally see like the Chiefs playing one of those like, they go cover zero and Brown makes a grab, breaks a tackle and then goes for like, 70 yards or something. Like that's totally like plausible to see.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, listen, he's probably the best receiver of our generation. You could probably argue Calvin Johnson too, but statistically, he's the best receiver of our generation. And it's not like mind blowing to think, oh, Antonio Brown has a monster game because he's that good and that talented. So obviously, he hasn't been around enough. So maybe the chemistry is still not there and obviously getting hurt. But I just think he's that good.
Yeah, and I also think the issue is that the counterpoint is he's currently not. He's the wide receiver 3 on the team. Godwin is currently ahead of him. Maybe that'll take some touches away.
Yeah. No, I think anything's possible with that because that's the tough thing with Tampa. While I think there's more people who I think could win Super Bowl of the year or Super Bowl MVP for Tampa, I think it's really hard because there are so many different guys. Like picking
Mhm.
a guy like Brown, he's got to outperform 4 other wide receivers.
Yeah, I see. Bernardo in the chat says if AB is the MVP, I'll have to kill myself. Okay, calm down. Let's not. It's sports. It's not that serious.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
Yeah.
no, Kyle, we do not
Don't kill yourself, please.
Yes, Jesus. I don't know.
I don't know. Sports pretty serious now.
All right, let's move off that. Oh my god. Number 17 now. I haven't done a great job at reading out which pick we're doing, but that's fine. I'm not great at my job. Moving on. I'm going to go Chris Jones here. Chris Jones, I feel like this is another good value simply because, Aaron Stinney is going to he's a backup right guard. Jones is someone who can maybe get pressure against him. You could see a scenario where perhaps, especially with some blitzes, he could get one-on-one matchups and he could potentially get a couple sacks and maybe a forced fumble.
Yeah. No, Chris Jones is a nice pick. I think both of those guys on the defensive line have a chance. And, I think this interior offensive line for Tampa is good. If Chris Jones tears it up, maybe, that just destroys this entire Tampa Bay offense. So I could see him disrupting this entire game from that inside.
Yeah, and he was he had a key part of the Super Bowl win last year, where not through his getting sacks, but he had a couple batted balls there that really made a key difference and caused San Francisco to have to give the ball back to Kansas City and let Mahomes do the rest of the work.
Yeah. No, I agree. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Let's see here. What are we at? 18?
18. Yes.
I've lost track.
So you have 18, and then you will have the last pick as well.
All right. With this pick, I'm going to go with Darrell Williams.
Okay.
I just think that he's more impactful than Clyde right now. I think Clyde's going to be good. I just think Darrell Williams more impactful right now. And basically, what he has to do is we almost saw a carbon copy of what you have to do. Like I said, at a Damian, there was a real argument Damian Williams should have been the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl MVP. If he has a performance like that, maybe a little bit better, then I could see a real scenario where Darrell Williams is the MVP of the Super Bowl.
Do you think that it could help him that I feel like a lot of people might get the two of them confused, and then we could see a scenario where like, well, he didn't win it last time and he was so good, so we'll give it to him this time.
I guess it's possible. That'd be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do see the scenario though where he does have that sort of performance with a couple touchdowns, a couple big catches, and is able to steal the award from Mahomes, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's there's a pathway, and again, that's kind of what we're trying to figure out here. So I'll go with my last pick here, number 19. I have 5 guys still on my board, and I'll read them out to you. I have Chris Godwin, CEH, Jason Pierre-Paul, Ronald Jones, and I even put Chad Henne on here because I feel like there's like this maybe small percentage chance that Andy Reid decides to have Mahomes do like 8 quarterback options to start the game. He gets hurt, and then Henne's able to somehow win the MVP, but won't go there. That's a bit of a harebrained scheme to get that to work. I think I just got to go with. I think it's tough. I'm between Godwin, CEH, or JPP. I feel like a running back for the Chiefs is going to be hard to win it. I do feel like JPP is probably the answer here. I think that, again, a lot of what you said about Shaq Barrett, you can say about JPP here. I'm getting him at better value, so that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can't fault the pick. He's obviously, he's been terrific this season. And, we talked about the offensive tackle situation for Kansas City. So JPP, I think, does make a lot of sense. So I think it's a smart pick, especially at 19. You never know what happens. He could dominate the offensive line.
Yes. Eli Mullen has put CEH in the chat like 8 times. So he wanted me to go to CEH there.
Well, I'm not going to go with CEH.
Oh, sorry. In spite of Eli Mullen, you're going to go against Eli?
Listen, I picked Shaq Barrett, and I already picked Darrell Williams. So I'm going against the grain here. I'm going with one more guy who I think could have a huge game and kind of flip the play. So we saw him have a horrendous play against the Bills last week, but he did have a receiving touchdown. He had a big 50-yard reverse on the run, and he's still the punt returner. So Mecole Hardman, I'm going with that one too for value on the return game. So if hypothetically, because these plays are in scenario for him, he has a punt return for a touchdown, and then Mecole Hardman has like a 65-yard touchdown pass. That's 14 points Mecole Hardman's essentially responsible for. And those are realistic scenarios. Those are things that he does. So I'm going to go with Mecole Hardman for my last pick at great value.
Yeah, again, very good value here at 20. I thought about him, and then just I didn't have him on my board because I just wasn't thinking about the return game. You beat me to that, and I thought about him and I completely forgot about him. I probably would have taken him at 19. That's a good one. I could definitely see a scenario again. And again, this late in the draft, it's almost like who can you see potentially win MVP?
Yeah, and it's not even potentially. It's just like, what would be the scenario? I don't think Ryan Succop's going to hit 9 field goals. So that's why I didn't pick Ryan Succop to win Super Bowl MVP. No offense to Ryan Succop. I just don't think that's going to happen.
You've annoyed all the Succop fans now.
I know, exactly. I'm sorry. I just see a scenario where, Tampa's special teams coverage has been shaky at times throughout the year. So maybe Hardman gets a big play in the special teams. Maybe he makes a big 65-yard pass, like I said, because he is that big play threat for them too. So if he's able to have a couple big plays in this one, I think there is a scenario. Yeah.
So I'll just read the list one more time. Then we'll get into LVP draft. So we have Mahomes, Brady, Kelsey, Hill, Fournette, Gronkowski, Matthew, Winfield, White Evans, Levante David, Shaq Barrett, Sammy Watkins, Byron Pringle, Cameron Brate, Antonio Brown, Chris Jones, Darrell Williams, JPP, and Mecole Hardman. That's our 20. Very interesting to see who ends up winning it. Now we have the other draft. This one, just for fun, just for bragging rights, and to kill the rest of the podcast time that we have. But I think it could be really fun. I think this one might actually be the more fun one. And so I think we'll do it the same way because I also think that the first pick is going to be more important. So we'll do it that way. And I'll give you the same option. Do you want to go with do you want to have the first pick or do you want to have the second and third and then fifth, seventh, and so on?
I'll take the first pick again just because. So actually, wait, let me change this real quick. I have a question because my instructions beforehand to my instructions when the show started weren't exactly clear. Are coaches on the table for this?
I did not have coaches on the table for this. We could include them if you want, but I would have to. I did not have coaches included. Do you want to include coaches?
I would prefer to include coaches because my list involves coaches.
Okay, well, we can add coaches. I'll figure that out as we go. We can do that.
Okay, the obvious one here then at number one is Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians, if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense doesn't look the part, if Tampa Bay's throwing the ball 30 yards on 3rd and 2, Bruce Arians is going to get a ton of flack here. So, yeah, Bruce Arians I feel like is the obvious number one pick in this scenario. So I'm going to take him and feel like that's an easy number one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that you're absolutely right. And I also think that Bruce Arians is the guy who he doesn't like analytics. He likes to just, go with his gut. And you could see him having like a Matt LaFleur moment but usually, of just like completely screwing up an obvious game management decision that hurts the Tampa Bay Buccaneers significantly.
Yeah. I mean, that's very possible. I thought it was a huge coaching disadvantage when he was going up against Matt LaFleur, and he actually brought it. He was very aggressive and did a lot of things really well. Outcoached LaFleur in that one, but I'm still saying it's a matchup advantage to Andy Reid, who's one of the best coaches of the 21st century. So I got to go Bruce Arians.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. But I'm happy about this. So you get that. I'm just going to go on to my. I'll do second and third picks together because they're both sort of together. I'm going to go both quarterbacks, Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. I had Brady is my number 2 pick. Mahomes is number 3. Not because, again, I want to be clear on how this draft works. It's not necessarily who we're predicting is going to be the worst. It's who we think has the best chance to end up being the most criticized player or coach at the end of the Super Bowl. And I feel like regardless of which team loses, the quarterback is going to get criticism, and especially if Brady loses. And if one of these guys has a bad day, which I could see happening, these defenses do match up well against these offenses. I think that getting both quarterbacks here, I feel great about that.
Yeah, I mean, the casuals are going to be out all over this, right? If one of these quarterbacks struggles, the casuals are just going to be like, oh, Brady was a fraud. He could never match up with Mahomes. Or if Mahomes loses, it's, yeah, he'll never win 6 Super Bowls. This is why nobody likes his girlfriend, all that kind of stuff. So the casuals will be all over these quarterbacks. And
is that a thing? Are people mad at his girlfriend?
She's very annoying. No disrespect.
I have
she's
no
like,
idea who she is.
Yeah, she makes these videos of like basically talking shit. And yeah, I find them repulsive. So anyways.
Whatever. Let her do what she wants.
No.
Okay, fine.
So anyway, yeah. So I mean, I think there's a scenario there. So I see it. Quarterbacks, while they get a lot of recognition with the MVP awards, Super Bowl MVP awards, they're also the most likely to get criticized. It's the easiest one to criticize.
Yeah, and it is going to be fun seeing the sort of the shift of we're going to have a lot of people make both lists, I think, in this because, again, it's percentages. But like Aaron Rodgers is now all of a sudden getting like the most criticism in Green Bay despite winning MVP and putting up a passer rating of over 100 against, the best defense in the league and a top 10 defense. If you're a quarterback, you're going to get criticized if you lose. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's yeah. I agree. So it's those are good picks. It makes a ton of sense. I think outside of Arians, I think they're the two most likely to get criticism, and it's not going to be rightfully so because they're both great, and neither one of these teams make the Super Bowl without their quarterbacks. But they're also going to get criticized if they lose. For my next pick, this is kind of off the beaten path. I think this is going to be interesting. I'm going with Mike Remmers. People don't, Mike Remmers is the backup offensive tackle for the Chiefs. And my thinking is just quite simple that, if Mike Remmers struggles, people are going to be like, oh, well, the Chiefs missing their tackles, it derailed the entire season. And Tampa Bay's defensive line is good enough to beat even starting offensive tackles, never mind backup offensive tackles. So if he's having a rough day, I could see them beating up Mahomes. I do think, like you said, he's incredibly hard to sack, but Remmers is going to have to bring his A game against Barrett and JPP.
Yeah, no, I don't hate this pick, although I do think that you got the wrong backup tackle. I am going with my number 5 pick. We'll do it together so we can talk about both of them. I have Andrew, it's Wiley. That's how you pronounce it, right?
Yes.
Wiley, yes. Andrew Wiley, who's sort of he played guard all season. He's now going to probably transition to tackle, I'm assuming. I feel like because that's what he did when Fisher went down. So he's the right tackle. So like Remmers positional wise makes more sense. But I think that the thing is, I thought Remmers actually has played pretty well. Not great, but he's played fine this season. Obviously, he's not Mitchell Schwartz, but I do think that Wiley's the guy who I feel like you could see more likely could get could giving up some sacks. And I do feel like if there's constant pressure and there's like one bad play by an offensive lineman, that's the guy who's going to get the most criticism. So that's why I have him there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the logic makes sense for both. You're probably right that Remmers has been a little better at the outside spot. I just think, like I said, I think JPP and Barrett are good enough to beat starting and high caliber offensive tackles. We saw obviously what Barrett did against the Packers last week. So if there's backups in place, I think they have an opportunity to feast on the outside.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's have you go on now. Number 6.
All right, I'm going to my second coach here, Byron Leftwich, the king of the 1st and 10 2-yard carry to Ronald Jones. If it's the same concept of variance, if this offense struggles early and is running the ball on 1st down every drive and throwing deep on 3rd and short, I think Byron Leftwich is going to get a lot of criticism in this one too, and not taking enough chances against the Chiefs.
Counterpoint: none of the casuals know who Byron Leftwich is.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that could hurt. I think that's maybe what he has working against him.
Yeah, fun fact about Byron Leftwich: did you know you could find his rookie card for like $1,000?
I did not know that. Is that? I mean, is that? Do you feel like that's high or low?
I feel like it's a little high for a
Yeah.
quarterback who didn't do a whole lot throughout his career. But yeah, his rookie card can go for some money.
Hey, could end up being a head coach someday.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. We'll move on now. Number 7. I'm going to stick with the offensive line here for the Chiefs because I feel like that could be a big way and my logic behind getting 2 offensive linemen for the Chiefs is I just could see there being a lot of pressure in this game to Mahomes, and that could be something talked about, and people might pick out a certain player. I'll go Stefan Wisnowski, maybe is how you pronounce it. He's the new guard. He was the bench all season. He's sort of the last guy who's now going to get playing time. And again, I'm assuming he's going to start. It still hasn't been officially decided, but that seems logical to me.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think if either of these offensive lines get beat up, I feel like they can get criticized. So it makes sense to try and capitalize on the value though, and take advantage of that. So yeah, if Vita Vea is eating them up on the inside, maybe these interior offensive linemen, or if Devon White's breaking through on every blitz, maybe these interior offensive linemen are going to get just as much criticism.
Yes. Also, people still confused in the chat. Least valuable player. I figured this wouldn't be that difficult. Least valuable player. That's LVP. All right, let's have you go now. Number 8.
All right. So this guy, I'm gonna go with. I'll just say it. I'm gonna go with Carlton Davis here. And it's just he's the cornerback on the outside with I think one of the toughest jobs during the Super Bowl defending these Chiefs weapons, and not to mention he's someone who isn't afraid to talk a little junk out there. So if he's out there talking and then gets torched for a 50-yard touchdown, the spotlight's going to be on him. I really like Carlton Davis, but I think there's going to be some criticism his way if he gives up a big play.
Oh, can you imagine the Michael Thomas tweets if Carlton Davis gives up a big touchdown in the Super Bowl? Yeah.
Michael Thomas offseason has been rough. I don't know, man. You lost. You didn't catch a ball in the game. I know you were battling like 3 injuries, but you didn't catch a single ball.
Yeah. Carlton Davis here at 8 is a good one. I had him here as well. And I also feel like what happened the first time they played could hurt him as well, where if he gives up just one big play that everyone's saying, Carlton Davis, once again, Tyreek Hill is able to get the better of him.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, and it's okay to talk if you back it up, but if you don't, then you're going to look like a fool out there.
Yeah, and I think the one also thing I should mention is, like I said earlier, I don't think they're going to leave him out to dry on an island like they did the first time. But who knows? The Bucs have done stupid things coaching, so I think it's a good value here at 8.
Yeah, I think that's a good value for me. So yeah, I'll go with it. Who do you got next?
All right, I'm gonna stick with Tampa Bay corners. Because I had Carlton Davis ahead, but I'm gonna go Sean Murphy Bunting here. I just feel like this is a scenario where I could easily, like I said, I could sort of see these number 2 and 3 corners actually having a bigger impact, since I think Davis will have help over the top, whereas like a Murphy Bunting might have to go up against Sammy Watkins one-on-one, or Jamel Dean might have to go up against Watkins one-on-one. But it'll probably be, I'm assuming Watkins and Murphy Bunting will be the matchup, and I could see Watkins getting the better of him.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I know Murphy Bunting's been terrific this postseason, but it's a tough matchup. Sammy Watkins is almost underrated now. I think he's almost underrated because he's almost forgotten on this Chiefs roster. I know he's been hurt, but I still feel like he can be a really good receiver. So it's not really it's not really a knock if Watkins gets the better of him on a few plays, but if he does, I think people are going to give him heat for it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's have you go on number 10.
All right. There's a few different guys I feel like I could go with on the Bucs offense. I'm going to go with Chris Godwin here. Chris Godwin had a better game against the Packers, but he hasn't had the best postseason. And for a guy who's as sure-handed as they come in the NFL, has dropped some catchable balls, I feel like, too. If he struggles in this one, I feel like there's going to be a lot of stuff coming in his way, because it hasn't been the best postseason. If it continues to spiral down, I feel like he's going to get the heat for it. Yeah,
and especially with, again, narratives can come into play. Even if he drops one that's like kind of a tough throw, you can see it sort of like how Mike Evans dropped the one he should have caught, and then he kind of misses the one off his fingertips. But then it's like, oh my God, Mike Evans can't catch anything. Well, it's like, well, the second one's kind of understandable. It's the first one that was bad. I could see that sort of happening with Godwin. If he just sort of, he doesn't make a tough catch, he's going to get more criticism than a regular receiver would.
Yeah, and I agree 100%, especially when everyone now is looking for him to drop the ball. I just feel like if it happens, the world's going to end on Twitter. Everyone's going to talk about it for, an hour if he ends a drive with the drop pass on third down.
Yeah, I agree. Number 11, I'm going to go right back to the Bucs corner. Well, I'm going to go Jamel Dean here. Why not just get the third corner? Again, it's really same logic for Sean Murphy Bunting of just get a corner, because there's a real chance that Kansas City could pass for a bunch of yards, and whoever's closest is going to get the criticism. So that might end up being Jamel Dean. So again, it's not that I think these corners are bad. I just think that the receivers for Kansas City are really good, and they could get the better of some of these guys.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think that, I think all of these guys can get exposed just because this Kansas City team's so talented. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with any cornerback being taken for Tampa Bay right now, just because of the weapons on Kansas City.
Yeah. All right. We don't have to spend too much on it because we pretty much covered it all already. Number 12, who do you got?
I mean, should I just go back to it? I guess I'll take Rashad Fenton. For the flip side, though, if Tampa Bay's receivers, which, we talk about these Chiefs weapons, it's not like these Buccaneers weapons are any slouches themselves. You still have Evans, Godwin, Gronk, Brown, Brate, playoff Lenny, all of these weapons on the Tampa Bay side. Rashad Fenton could get burned too in this one. So there's a couple guys on the Chiefs defense who also could get exposed. We saw what happened to Kevin King against for the Packers and how miserable he was out there in that game. Could that happen to another number 2 corner?
Yeah, it absolutely could. And it's not about, again, I kind of just had I was thinking about that too. I kind of just had a hard time really picking which. I do feel like the Kansas City corners are better than the Tampa Bay corners. So that's why I was a little bit more having a tough time with it. And I also think that maybe one slight help is that, I think the safeties are better in Kansas City, but it's not a bad pick here, dude. I like that one as well. Any final thoughts on that one?
No, I think we've definitely covered the corners. So I think everyone gets what we're saying.
Yeah, we got it. 13, I'll go Aaron Stinney. He's the backup guard when Alex Kappa got hurt, and I believe it was the divisional round for the year. He's someone he's a backup guard. He's played fine. He's played replacement level for a guard, which again, I think that there's 3 really good offensive linemen for the Bucs. I think Donovan Smith is above average, and I think Aaron Stinney is replacement level because he's a backup. But I could definitely see something where if he gives up a sack to Chris Jones or two, and Tampa Bay fans have no sense of like, oh, he's our guy because we've known about him for like 3 weeks. So I could see that kind of thing happening where he could get a lot of criticism.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Jones has the opportunity to eat this offensive line alive. He's that talented. I know this offensive line is pretty good for the Bucs, but there is a potential for it, so I understand the pick.
All right. Yeah.
I'm going with another Buccaneers offensive lineman. I'm going to go with Ryan Jensen. I think Ryan Jensen. I'm going to start. Let me preface this with I think Jensen's terrific. I think he's really good. But the problem is that the interior offensive line for Tampa struggles. Ryan Jensen stands out with this big red hair. So I think there's going to be a lot of people talking about the guy in the big red hair who can't block Chris Jones just because he's kind of there in the middle of the field, and he could get criticized for that. And I think the other part about it too is, as good as I think Jensen is, I think he has been known to make the kind of be a little overzealous at times and take the bad penalty. If he has a bad penalty that kills a drive with a 15-yard penalty, then that's also something that he could be criticized for. So I'll take Jensen here. I think he's a terrific center, but I just think there's potential.
Yeah, it's not an awful pick, and especially I think more so, less so about the red hair, but I think more so about I could definitely see him taking a dumb penalty. He's done that before. I'll probably finish off the offensive lineman getting drafted. I'm going to go number 15, Donovan Smith. That's where I thought you were going when you said another Bucs offensive lineman. Again, he's the guy who I said I think he's above average, but he was really bad at the beginning of his career, and so Bucs fans still kind of hate him, even though he's actually a solid tackle now. And so I think that I could see a scenario where if he gives up a sack or two to Frank Clark, then he could get heavily criticized.
Yeah, no, I agree. And with the defensive lines on both of these teams being so good, it's easy to see an offensive lineman get exposed in this one, I feel like. And because not a lot of people like to put criticism on the quarterback sometimes, it's easy for one of these guys to get the blame.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go 16 now. Who do you got?
All right, so I'm going to go with the Chiefs safety here. He's been known to take some chances sometimes and, play. He's now viewed as a dirty player almost because of the hit on the Browns. I'm going to go with Sorensen in this one. I feel like that, Sorensen likes to run around and try and make some plays, but, Brady could also, if he tries to jump on a play and make a big hit, Brady can also torch him because he's that smart. So I'm going to go with Sorensen here. Could he get exposed in this game?
Yeah, that's a good pick. I think it's a good pick for several reasons. First off, though, I think all-time backfired nickname of Dirty Dan, and then he has the hit against the Browns, and then people like not understanding why he got like the nickname is just like but yeah, no, this is a good one for a few reasons. For one thing, I could see a scenario where like a Bucs receiver gets wide open downfield, and Sorensen could be the closest guy, not because it was his fault, but he's just the safety, and people will be like, oh, Sorensen sucks. So I could see that happening. I could also see a scenario happening where, the Chiefs like the blitz and they like to send corners, which would mean that a safety has to then come over and cover Evans or Antonio Brown or Godwin, and he could get burned that way. So, like you said, he could end up with a personal foul of some sort. So good pick here at 16.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. Once again, I think he is also a good safety, but I do think there is potential for him to get burnt by Brady.
Yeah. All right. Number 17. I'm going to have him in both these drafts. I'm going to playoff Lenny here. I think playoff Lenny at number 17 because he has hands of stone and he does drop a good amount of passes and he'll catch some here and there too. He's a solid route runner for a halfback, but I could see him dropping a pass on a crucial like 3rd down and 3 and that being a key play.
Yeah. No, I agree. He certainly. While he's been good this postseason, he also hasn't been shorthanded. He's had a few drops in each game, I feel like. So there is a scenario where he struggles in this one. And, he also is the biggest name in that backfield. So if he struggles, he's going to get the recognition for it.
Yeah, absolutely. We could see, we'll have to see if playoff Lenny includes Super Bowls. Do Super Bowls count as playoffs? This will be the ultimate answer, depending on how playoff Lenny does.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting. I think he's going to have a good game, but there is potential for it.
Yeah, we're pick 17 at this point.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with a guy who I don't even know is going to dress for the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Le'Veon Bell here.
Okay.
So Obviously, if this becomes so one-dimensional and Chiefs are struggling to run the ball and they're forced to throw every time, and this Bucks pass defense is just playing at its highest level and just doing a very good job, all the conversations are going to go to Le'Veon Bell, who bet on himself, got a huge payday, and is essentially washed up since then. And he's going to wash up to shore in this one and just continue to struggle. He hasn't looked good since he got to Kansas City. So Le'Veon Bell, I feel like, could catch a lot of heat here if he's not able to do a whole lot and impact this game.
That's a good one. And I think also another factor that I have for another one of these guys that I might select, still haven't decided yet, is people kind of want Le'Veon Bell to fail because he did hold out for a full season. So if he gets into the game and fumbles the football or something, it's going to be way more than if CEH does it.
No, yeah, I mean, that's completely true. So I think there's a lot going against him where it's more destined to fail than succeed, just because he has not looked good too since he's gotten to Kansas City. He's really struggled. The explosiveness just seems gone from him. It's been rough.
Yeah. Could we say, was this maybe an all-time great move by Le'Veon Bell to sit out for a year? What if he was washed up that season?
Yeah, and he loses his payday. Look, I mean, I completely understand running backs wanting to get paid because it's so hard for them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is the perfect example of why a running back should get paid. I mean, when we argued our ways to fix the NFL last year, I said that running back should be exempt from the rookie contract scale because it's just the running back's highest value is years 1 through 6. And Le'Veon Bell is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I agree. Number 19. So I'm going to so there's 3 guys I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about Mike Evans, who has been prone to drops over his career. He's great. He will drop a ball every now and then. So that's a factor. I think Rob Gronkowski is someone I'm thinking about because Gronkowski's the kind of guy who, if things aren't working, Brady's going to try to force it to Gronkowski. And I could see that not working. And then people saying, why are you throwing it to Gronkowski? So I could see that happening. But I think the guy I'm going to go with is number 19, Tyreek Hill. And obviously Hill's great. He's maybe the best receiver in the league. I think that my logic here is I could see Tampa Bay doubling him the whole game. So then people will say, well, why didn't he have 100 yards? Why did he end up with 40 yards or 50 yards? Because they're just expecting him to do great, but they're not realizing the coverage is part of the issue. And also he'll drop a pass here and there. He has great hands. Every now and then it could happen. So I think Tyreek Hill, and my last point on Hill is he's another guy people want to hate. People would love nothing more than for Tyreek Hill to have a bad game in the Super Bowl. So that's my final point on that.
I agree with all the points. I think it'll be interesting. And yeah, I mean, he'll get the heat of, good game to nice time for Tyreek Hill not to show up. So it's an interesting debate. I think he'll have a good game, but I understand the logic to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, 19, just saying who has a pathway to be most hated. Number 20 now, capping off this list. Who do you got?
All right. I'll go with someone you mentioned just now and someone I picked to be a Super Bowl MVP potential, Gronkowski.
Yeah.
I understand, he was a big name acquisition for them this offseason. And if he has like a 0 catch, 3 target day and is blocking a lot of the game and not making a huge impact in the passing game, I see Gronkowski getting a lot of heat.
Yeah, no, it's totally logical. And again, that's kind of the funny thing about these lists is, oftentimes it's like, who does this game come down to? And that's kind of how some of these people make both the list. That's why quarterbacks both made the top 3. Looking at the list now, kind of interesting. Multiple Tampa Bay coaches made the list. No Chiefs coaches made the list. And I think that makes sense. Like if the Chiefs offense has a bad day, everyone knows Andy Reid's great. No one's going to criticize him too much. And if the Bucs offense has a great day and puts up 40, they're just going to say, oh, Tom Brady was great. So I think that's logical.
Yeah. Well, and plus everybody besides general managers likes Eric Bieniemy. So, although I could see, not to get too political, but I could see a scenario where the Chiefs offense struggles and Bieniemy's catching heat for it, but it'll be interesting. And I don't think anyone's really going to criticize Steve Spagnuolo for a bad game. They'll probably just praise Brady more than criticize Spagnuolo for it.
Is that a political comment?
Well, there's people who are now 180ing on Bieniemy because they feel like they're trying to force him to be hired. There's people out there who have no time on their hands or have too much time on their hands.
Okay, well, what's wrong with people?
I know. I know, but there are people out there. He does need a head coaching job. But if they do struggle, I do think there is a scenario where he gets criticized, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, thank you for not getting too political.
You're welcome.
Yes. No. Yeah. I had some other people on my list. Obviously, I mentioned Evans and Gronkowski, who made it on the list. I also thought Ronald Jones could be there. He's prone to fumble, so that could happen. Cameron Brate for a lot of the same reasons. Gronkowski was on there. I thought Sammy Watkins, because I think that's something like I think the problem with Sammy Watkins is that that's something that like you and I might watch and say, wow, Watkins isn't getting open. He's the key guy. But I think the casual fans might say it's like, oh, well, he's Sammy Watkins. He was a bust in Buffalo, right? So it's like, I think that's kind of why he would have a hard time making it. But yeah, those are my other honorable mentions.
Yeah, there's a couple guys I had. I actually had Harrison Butker because he weirdly has, from 50 and out, he's fantastic, but he has missed some big kicks, especially some short kicks and some extra points. If he misses an extra point or something in this game, could he get criticized for something like that, especially if it, turns a 3-point game to a 4-point game and Chiefs are forced to try and get a touchdown? Butker's a guy I had on my list. And I also had Antonio Brown on my list for the same reasons you mentioned about Le'Veon Bell and Tyreek Hill. People don't like Antonio Brown. So there's a scenario where he goes silent in this game, and it's there's a bunch of memes about him on the sideline or something.
All right. So also, Kyle, I have breaking news, as Chris D pointed out in the chat. The Texans have hired their head coach. It is not Eric Bieniemy. David Coley, who was the Ravens assistant head coach / wide receiver coach / pass game coordinator. I'm going to be honest, I know nothing about him, but there you go. Another head coaching slot filled, and according to Adam Schefter, he's a black head coach has been hired this offseason, so you can't pull the race card for the Texans at least.
That pass game for Baltimore was just so dominant this year. It makes a ton of sense to hire a guy like that, the pass game coordinator.
Yes.
Listen, I think a lot of these assistant coaching and coordinator jobs, it's all kind of a let's see. Like, I really like Brandon Staley, but I have no idea if he's going to be a good head coach. I have no idea if Dan Campbell's going to be a good head coach. I can guess, but it's really hard to tell until they get in there and see what happens. So we'll see what happens, but it's interesting. I obviously don't agree with the hire.
Yeah, I'm looking at so he's 65, so, got time to improve. Really not going with the young, spry guy here. And listen, you never know. I'm never really one to criticize. Looks like he's been an assistant head coach a couple of times. He was there with Kansas City from 2013 to 2016, so Andy Reid coaching tree. He's been in the NFL as early as 1994. He's been in the NFL with he was the Tampa Bay wide receivers coach. So he's been in the NFL longer than I've been alive. So you at least have some experience there, I guess, for Houston.
We'll see what happens. That has got to be the weirdest hiring process I've ever seen, right? Like, they got to the point where they're bringing Josh McCown in, and it's just like, what are we doing? It's very weird thing. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I think a lot of these assistant coaches and coordinators, it's hard to tell. I think there's some guys you can infer are going to be great, but I don't think anyone was saying like Sean McVay was the hire of the offseason when he got picked. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, or even like Joe Judge wasn't a sexy hire when he got picked, and now he had a good season for the Giants. Whoever knows? It's always a crapshoot with that kind of thing. But yeah, so that's our show.
Happy to get Todd Bowles for another year before we end?
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to have Todd Bowles. I think he would have been deserving of a head coaching job. I think that he kind of got a raw deal with the Jets. He did win 10 games a season with the Jets. I'd like to see him get another opportunity, but obviously, selfishly, I'm happy to have him back on the Buccaneers.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I wonder if them playing so deep in the postseason played into it too. Yeah, you never know with these things. It's very weird, but yeah. So there's our last coaching hire, right?
Do the Eagles have a coach?
Do they not yet? Oh, maybe the Eagles still. Yeah, you're probably right. I don't think the Eagles have hired anybody.
I haven't been paying too much attention just because I've been focusing on the Super Bowl and stuff, teams that are still in it. But yeah, interesting stuff. So there we go. And if you want to hear more of our opinions on the head coaches and we're just various other stuff, I think I'm also going to be doing some Super Bowl prop bets on Sunday. So Sunday at 9, be on the lookout for that. So that's when we're going to go live, Sunday at 9. We will then be back Wednesday, a week from today at 9 Eastern time to talk about that'll be our preview show for the Super Bowl. That's our big, preview show as we've been doing every week. And then we'll probably be live on the Super Bowl. We'll have to see about that. But yeah, that's our schedule. Thank you to everyone who watched live in the chat. Thanks to everyone who watches after the fact. We appreciate it. And Kyle, let them know where they can find you before we sign off.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter. Follow the account for this podcast at On the Side. Oh, geez, excuse me. At On the Sideline JK. That's at On the Sideline JK on Twitter. Follow me at by Kyle Grondin. That's GRONDIN. At by Kyle Grondin on Twitter. And then follow at Jackson Kruger on Twitter as well. Great content throughout the week on Twitter. And then, yeah, like you said, Sunday at 9, tune in there. We're going to talk about the offseason stuff. We're going to make our prop bets. And I'm going to tell you which Super Bowl Gatorade you should bet on for the prop bets. So make sure to tune in Sunday.
Yes, good. Okay, that's good. We need that information. All right. Yeah. Thanks to everyone for watching again. We appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.